Hey everybody, trying something a little bit different here. Trying to review, or I guess do a commentary on one of my older movies. I just felt like I wanted to do so because this is, my first movie, I guess. I mean, I had done crazy, stupid movies before, but this is my first movie with a script and a serious plot and drama. And as you can see, he's putting, trail mix into a backpack. Oh boy. Great start. Yeah, so this movie was, like I said, my first attempt at any of this, and that's my cousin acting in the main role. My mom is on the other line, but it was my first attempt doing any sort of movie like this, so this was one of the most inspiring experiences of my life, even though, nowadays it's not very good. I look back at this and I'm like, this is not a very good film. But there are parts that I like about it and parts that I appreciate about it, especially because the experience of making it was so much fun.
I'll talk to you later.
And the idea with this character here, played by my cousin, who had never acted before, he was just somebody that, was willing to do it because he was able to and he was free. And his character is basically lost someone very important to him, which we'll find out more about later. And you can see the lav mic in his back pocket right there. Oh boy. And then there's the very long car shot, because I mean, when I made this movie, I wanted it to be like a slow-paced movie that really let you breathe and really let you, feel the despair that's going on in this guy's head, but I made it way too long. Like, this shot is so unnecessarily long. Like, I should just do a timer for how long this shot goes on. It was even longer when I was in the edit for this. I remember having it even longer, and then eventually I cut right here. Dissolves to him in the car right there. Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of that in this movie, where it's way too long. But the idea with this movie is that he's basically going through the 5 stages of grief. I got the idea for it when I was in a class for school. Even this shot was longer before, but I got the idea from it when I was at school with a class, and I had basically done a ton of days where I was just walking home, and there was this abandoned road. I basically walked on this road because it was a shortcut back home, and I got some ideas for it. I got an idea where a guy is going through the woods and going through the 5 stages of grief. And, my mentor, Jim, basically let that film get made, and he helped me write it, and he taught me everything I know about, making films. And here he is right there in my dad's Cub Scout uniform. He's supposed to be like the park ranger. Oh, he did a lot of crazy stuff for my movies, Jim, right there. You don't see his face very well, but yeah. And then we go into our first flashback with this map. Yeah, the acting in this scene isn't very good. I mean, I appreciate these guys a lot. My cousin Dylan is the main actor, and then my cousin Anna is the other character on my mom's side. He's on my dad's side, she's on my mom's side. So it was a little awkward with them having to be a couple, because they're, distant relatives, I guess. But they're not actors, as you can obviously tell. They try their best, and I'm really happy that, I was able to do something with them, but the dialogue isn't good either. That also doesn't work. The dialogue here is really bad. And if you look closely, you can see that, the shots don't line up. There's shots where she's, drawing with the pen, and then in the next shot, she has the pen down, and there's shots where he's doing stuff with the book, and it doesn't line up with the next shot. Like, the continuity is all over the place. And just all this dialogue is just not very good. And she's clearly just, she has a pen that has, no ink in it, just, outlining the same drawing she supposedly already did. My mentor, Jim, also drew that map. Yeah, and I was trying to have that whole scene, lead into something that happens later, and the way I did it just wasn't very good. And it's also difficult, because obviously this film is meant to be, metaphorical for the 5 stages of grief, and him getting over his grief. But it's kind of difficult to tell what's real and what isn't, which I'll talk about more later. These shots are actually pretty good. The best parts of this movie is when no one's talking. The best parts of this movie is when it's just visual. And, I like that. I like there was just some random mitten on the ground when we were filming that, and he just put it on the tree. And then, as you can see, he's about to, go around and find the mitten again, just to show that he's walking in circles. Yeah, there it is. There's the mitten. Yeah, so he throws that on the ground. He's frustrated. So, yeah. Blah, blah, blah. And this woods that he's in is actually, like, a really small patch of woods.
Alright, I'm not lost.
Alright, so the idea behind this is that he's in denial right now, because of the 5 stages of grief. So he's in his first stage, denial. He's trying to make a fire, and he obviously has no idea what the frick he's doing. My character is incredibly stupid. I mean, this guy has, oh my goodness. Someone should have told me this was not a very good scene, because he doesn't know what the crap he's doing. Look at him go. Alright, yeah, there he hit his hand, and that's anger, when he's going to the anger stages of grief, but it lasts really quick, and I should have had more emphasis on that, but he actually hit his hand with that rock, which I have to commend him for. Yeah, so that was the anger stage. It happens that quickly, which, that wasn't great. I remember I took inspiration from this movie from another, short film on the internet where someone's going through the 5 stages of grief in the woods. And originally in that film, he got really pissed off and he was screaming, and that was my idea originally, but I just kind of didn't direct him very well, and just got this quick scene where he gets pissed off for like a second. And then there's him being an idiot again with the tent. Oh boy. I remember my dad just filmed him. My dad, the cinematographer, just filmed him, and he just did whatever the heck he wanted with that tent. Oh, then he goes to bed in the middle of a trail where a bunch of people hike, and then, it just fades back in, and it's still in the middle of the day. There's no, there's no passage of time. Like, why would he go to sleep in what looks like the middle of the day?
Would you help me?
And then this line that totally isn't dubbed at all. The scene is not dubbed in post at all.
Gloria,
this is supposed to be him bargaining,
carrot or something.
And he's also going a little nuts, I guess, is my idea. So he's yelling at the bird up in the tree, trying to bargain with the tree, I guess. The bargaining stage of grief. Which, again, could have been much, much better. That wasn't great. This shot is actually kind of cool, though. That's the thing about this movie, is that some of the shots are cool, and the moments where nobody's talking are actually decent. Yeah, and it's just, this small patch of woods actually had, like, a lot of places that would make some good shots, which is why I've used this woods in many of my movies. I've used it in many movies since then. And yeah, that shot was really long. It's like 2001: A Space Odyssey, but even more long and drawn out. But it's still better than any of the scenes where he has to speak. So yeah, he just went through bargaining, so he's just lost right now, I guess. Just more scenes of him walking, because that's what a lot of the movie is. Yeah. And one of the things about this movie that was really bad is that he always had a lav mic. That's how he recorded like 90% of the sound in this movie, was with a lav mic, which many people who do films will tell you is a terrible idea. Don't use lav mics, because you can see them in shots and they don't always make great audio, which is why the audio earlier is really bad. Oh man. And now he sits down, he's going into his depression stage of grief. The stages of grief are not shown very well. They're not illustrated well, and they should have had more emphasis, and they shouldn't have happened. There was 3 stages of grief where they happened so closely together. Denial happened, and then anger happened really, really fast, and then bargaining right after, and then it's just the way it's structured is not very well done, but he's supposed to be in the depression stage of grief right now. And he's about to go in another flashback and fall asleep again, I guess, in the middle of a day. This is the other flashback. This was actually, I think, is the best part of the movie, honestly. The part that holds up the most, mostly because there's no talking. That's just my aunt's farm or ranch or whatever. And they had to act romantic, and they really struggled with it. Oh man, and you can kind of tell that that they're not a real couple, I guess. There's my family's van in the back, very red and prominent in that picture. And there's, the chickens that they have. And, yeah, she starts dismembering the dandelions. Yeah, there she goes. Boop! It just kind of makes the scene unintentionally funny. And then this shot was inspired by Up. The movie Up, Pixar, you know what that movie is. Except obviously it was way better done, and it was done way better in that. But this is a shot ripped straight from Up, where the woman, they're going up a hill, and then the lady falls over, and then the guy comes back down. He's like, oh crap, and then there she is, dead with cancer, even though her hair is still all over the place. It's kind of, she's kind of has like a bald cap, but you can still see her hair all over the place. We didn't do that very well, like many other things in this movie. Oh boy. See, that's the thing. My cousin is actually good when he's not speaking. He's a lot better at acting when he's not speaking. He's good at like that subtle, emotional acting, like the Ryan Gosling acting, I guess. But the thing is, Ryan Gosling is really great in both speaking and silent acting. I'm being self-deprecating, and I'm being deprecating towards the actors, but acting is really difficult. It's why I don't do it, and these guys put a lot of effort into this. And they did a lot for this movie that I appreciate. That scene was hard to do because his reaction was, like, really exaggerated at first, because he's supposed to be seeing a river, and originally he was like, oh, like a big happy sigh. It was, like, way over the top. And then there's the river. Yeah, that river's a lot different now. I go to this woods every once in a while. It has, like, a really big tree that crashed. That's bigger than the one that's there right now. That is now over the river in that spot. So it looks a lot different. I mean, this was, when did I film this? Like, 2017, I think? Early 2017, and now it's 2020, obviously. There he goes. So this is actually something I'm proud of, because this shot, in correspondence to the last shot, this shot was actually in a totally different area, like across the state. But, like, he's going up this hill, and it's supposed to be the same hill he was going up in the last shot, and you can't tell the difference. It actually looks like it could be that same hill, which is really cool, and I'm glad we were able to do that. That was a good transition. And here it goes. That is my grandpa's deer camp. That I did a documentary about my grandfather. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but this is his deer camp that I've used in my other movie, Paul, as well, which is better than this film, but yeah. So, I mean, the idea here is that he's going through acceptance, and I don't know, it was like, Jim, my teacher, like my mentor with this film, who also plays the ranger, he was, telling me that it might be a cool idea if he found this cabin in the woods, and I didn't really think of, like, a good way to use that cabin. He just kind of finds it, and it's his acceptance, I guess. Like, I feel like I could have had more, better use for this cabin, because the idea was that he didn't know this cabin was there, and he was supposed to be surprised, but it didn't end up, working very well. And then, obviously, the idea that she drew that truck in the tree, and then it's actually real, as you're about to see. He's looking at the map, and there's the truck. That was supposed to be a big twist when I originally wrote this movie. It was just like, it was the first movie I'd ever wrote that was actually like a good, like a serious script. So I just, got really creative with it, I guess. And I wanted to do, like this big twist where the truck is actually real that she was drawing. And I don't know, I guess it's open to interpretation. We don't know who built this truck. Was it her? Was it, a thing that just exists and he found it? Like, what is he really trying to find in these woods? That's I guess the question here. Yeah, so here he goes. He's sitting in the truck. So yeah, we had this shot go on for really long because we wanted to show how high up this truck was and how cool it was. Because that truck is really high up. I mean, that was really impressive what my grandfather was able to do with that, especially at his, old age. Yeah, and then there's just so we just brought that cleaner thing because he's supposed to clean that window right there. We brought that cleaner, but we were like, when we filmed this, we were like, why would there be a random cleaner in this abandoned truck? So we were like, we had him make like a puzzled face, like, why is this here? He was like, what? And then obviously he cleans up the place, which I think is another, better scene in this movie. Him just cleaning up the place, and that's metaphorical for him cleaning up his life, obviously, and just, coming to acceptance with this whole thing, this grief that he's had to go through. I think it's a better part of the movie for sure. He really likes washing those windows, though. He does a lot of that. Look at him go. Yeah. I remember this was a really long day, too. Like, we filmed a ton of stuff on that day. So I remember, I was doing, meetings with my mentor, Jim, and I like showed him all this stuff, and he was like, how did you get all that stuff done in one day? It was an incredibly inspiring time in my life, because it's the first time I got to make a movie. So this was the most inspired I think I've ever been in my life to make a film, because it was my first time doing it. It was like the most inspiring creative time. And I can just look fondly back on this movie because of that. It was like, I've made a lot of movies since this, obviously, but I don't think I've ever been as inspired making another movie than I was making this. And then this scene was a little weird because originally we wanted to make it seem like maybe he would cut himself with that knife, which is dark, but he ends up, carving this wood instead. But then that didn't end up translating well, so we just ended up, leaving the music in and not trying to make that a big deal. Lorien, because there's references Lord of the Rings in this movie. It's kind of like his happy place, I guess. And then he sticks the sign in, and we had trouble getting that sign in there. That was a difficult place to put it, and then he got it. There you go. Puts the picture of her there, and moves on with his life. But she's still there because that was an important part of his life, and he needs to learn from it, not just, completely forget she existed. And then here we go. He's like rolling up his sleeves like he's happier now. He's supposed to look more optimistic here. And then this scene is really bad. I love Jim to death, but this scene didn't work very well. I mean, that Cub Scout uniform looks terrible. That's my dad's from when we used to do Cub Scouts, and we should have just had him wear something normal. But the idea with the they're just completely talking over each other in that scene. It's really bad. And then the Rangers Jim's just like, hey, get out of here. That's what it seems like in that scene. But we should have done more takes of that. But the idea with him is that he's supposed to be really optimistic, and my character played by my cousin is really, pessimistic towards the beginning of the movie. So the idea with the Ranger character is that we're supposed to see a contrast as the movie goes on. At first, his interaction with him is very cynical and rude, and then later on in the movie, he's polite and happy. And here he goes, calling his mom, trying to move on. And there's my first movie. Yeah, I mean, watching it, there's a lot of parts I like about it, but it's overall not very good. I almost feel like I should remake it someday. I've made a lot of movies about someone going through a rough time in their life and then getting out of it, especially in the woods, because I've used the woods a lot. So maybe not remake it, but I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I had a lot of really good ideas here and some good moments. But, yeah. It was a huge learning experience for me. And, having Jim as my, I guess, co-writer was awesome. Like, he's the guy that taught me, everything I needed to learn when making this movie. And, yeah, it was the stepping stone for everything I would make since then. Without this movie, I wouldn't be, making the stuff I'm making now. With my newest movie, Shoulder Angels, that wouldn't have happened without this movie. There's just so much that I learned from this. That's the thing about making films. Even if it's not the greatest film in the world, it's still something you can look back on for the, you know, the lessons you've learned, and the, you know, just looking back on it to see how much you've improved. Which is why I like looking back at my movies, even the ones that aren't very good. And here's obviously the credits. Yay! I thanked my guidance counselor in the special thanks for some reason. I don't know why. I just felt like it. Alright, so that's the movie. Yay! Thanks for watching this video. It's something new, so I don't know if I'm going to continue doing this in the future. But I thought it would be fun to just look back at my old movie, my first one, and just, you know, make fun of it a little bit and just look back. But the lesson of this video is, don't use a lav mic for everything, because that never turns out good. Use a boom mic. There are some scenes in this movie where we used a boom mic. Just never use a lav mic. The only times you should use a lav mic is if maybe the actors are really far away or something like that. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.